All right, I think we've got one person online right now. Let me know if the sound is good. We had some audio issues last time and lighting issues, but you know, doing these live videos, you have to kind of learn. So up to the right side of your screen, you'll be able to chat with me if you have questions, and we're definitely going to be going over a number of different topics related to Section 8. So taking all kinds of questions if you have anything you need to ask. So today we're going to be talking about how to apply for Section 8 housing. We're going to be talking about the different types of low-income housing. Now, I do realize that Google and YouTube, you have people that give bullet points. They all tell you, you know, by the way, there's, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 different types of housing. Look, guys, there's hundreds, and I'm going to prove that today. And so it just goes to show you that a lot of people like to copy each other, and they don't really know that much about Section 8. Or as we may call it, the HUD and also the Housing Authority. So today we're going to go over a few different types. So as you know, the U.S. Department of Housing does control all the funding on the federal level, and it issues payments down to your local housing authority, which is administered by the states and counties. In addition to that, the Housing Department of Housing also issues funds to nonprofits, and so what that does is allows them to issue a different type of voucher. The types of vouchers we're going to be talking about today are many. Most of you are not even aware of. So we're going to be talking about the Housing Choice Voucher, better known as Section 8, or public housing. And then we're going to talk about project-based housing, tenant-based housing, subsidized housing, family unification vouchers, homeownership vouchers, foster to youth independence, or FYI, tenant protection vouchers, witness relocation vouchers, rapid rehousing vouchers, PSH and permanent supportive housing, which is also a voucher, HUD VASH vouchers, which is VA supportive housing, VAWA housing, or domestic violence, better known as domestic housing. I have to skip that name because I don't like YouTube to unrank my videos over using a specific word. So then we're going to go a little bit deeper into special purpose vouchers, Section 202, which is supportive housing for the elderly, Section 811 housing, supportive housing for persons with disabilities, Section 515 for rural rental housing program, Section 504 housing protection, which is housing protecting housing for students with disabilities. Then we're going to talk about special types of vouchers that come to FEMA, the Red Cross, Shelter Plus, TDHE, which is essentially tribal housing, but it's Section 8. So now you're starting to see there's a big difference between what I know and all the other people that pretend to know things. You know, they can only comment about 3 or 4 types of housing because that's the limit of their knowledge. Most of them actually come to, they pretty much look at what I do, and then they, you know, try to figure it out from there. So I get that, you know, they all want to make a few nickels and dimes off of what they've got to comment about. But look, guys, if you want a real consultant, this is what I do. I deal with people. I help them get housing choice vouchers, okay? I help them get all types of vouchers. I also deal with landlords. Properties that range anywhere from a few units, 200 units, 500 units. Got a portfolio. If we counted every property from all 200 landlords, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars worth of properties that I consult on. So what I do is not a joke. I'm not a bobbing head on YouTube that doesn't know. I've got 18 years of experience doing this. There is very little about these programs I don't know. And in collusion of that, also, I deal with housing authority employees. They feed me a tremendous amount of information. So now let's get to the actual purpose of why you guys are really here, and that's you want to know how to apply for Section 8. So you know that's probably the simplest thing. You know, for most of you, you go into Google, you type in housing authority for your city. So if you live you know, in Baton Rouge and you want to live the housing authority for Baton Rouge, then you go and you simply apply. There's no real magic to that. You're just applying. Where the real magic comes in is how you're answering your questions and what special features you may have that would allow you to get a voucher under any one of those 30 I just spoke about. And that's not including subsections of both tax code and also federal law, which allow all kinds of subsections. So you hear Section 211 or 811. So there are literally hundreds of those. And unfortunately, I can't cover them all in one video. So, you know, in addition to that, we do, you know, talk about the different types and how they are applicable to your life and what you could potentially get with each one. So we start with the housing choice voucher. That's the most common one. Most people apply at the housing authority. Now, the housing authority typically in your city has a couple of types of vouchers they deal with. It's primarily the housing choice voucher that is attached to different types of funding. Now, the housing authority can do one of three things. They can issue a housing choice voucher, or they can, I'm sorry, I should have pulled my chat window over so I could see if anybody comments. So with that being said, back to the housing authority. So you fill out an application. They usually going to offer you a housing choice voucher attached to a specific type of funding, or they're going to offer you project-based housing. Project-based housing is when the housing authority owns the property. When they issue a housing choice voucher, that means that an independent landlord owns the property and you're bringing the voucher to him. And then the third scenario is what you would call subsidized housing. That is when a landlord owns the property but also receives federal tax credits, and then thus it becomes subsidized, and you apply directly with the landlord at their property, and then they issue your application back to the housing authority and get it approved that way. That's especially good for those of you that are 55 plus and 62 plus. Now we're going to go into project-based housing. Now I'm going to tell you, most of the stories you've heard about project-based housing is actually pretty real. All the way back, dating back to the 60s till current. So the housing authority tends to do a pretty poor job of running their properties. So they own them and then they also run them. And so what you find is a high prevalence of drug activities, prostitution, and gang activity, drug users, and a number of other things. I deal with thousands of properties, and I should say I deal with hundreds of landlords and thousands of tenants. And one thing that I do very well is I ensure that when I'm dealing with my landlords that we don't include those type of people. So the properties I deal with tend to be people that are just simply trying to live normally. They want to live in a normal area of town, but still be able to respectively use Section 8. So that's what makes my properties that I help manage with the owners unique, because I don't run it like the housing authority does. I don't just pool all the criminals and drug addicts in one property like a housing authorities typically do. When they believe that you're a high functioning, so if you go down to the housing authority, you fill out an application and you don't come off as a person that's going to be problematic, they're more likely to offer you a Section 8 choice, a housing choice voucher where you can go pick your own place. If you present somebody that's going to be complicated, then they'll likely just pool you over there into their project-based housing. So that is the reason why the extraordinary number of crazy people that are in the project-style housing, that's the reason they make that offer to you. You somewhere in your application you messed up, okay? When you get involved in them, occasionally it slips through with seniors or honest people do get in project-based housing, but for me, it's really just a county jail without bars. You're offered the absolute worst type of property, so you need to be careful in how you're reacting and fill out your application, okay? Let's go into tenant-based housing. So back to that landlord that bought a property that has tax credits, and then they call that subsidized. So when we end up in that type of housing, that is what they call tenant-based housing. That is safe housing. It's good housing. It's independent of the housing authority. It's perfectly equitable to live there. There's a lot of nice properties. So I don't want you to confuse project with tenant-based. Now, the tenant-based, all the funding is attached to the physical unit. And then what you end up with there is once you apply, the funding is actually attached to the unit. So if you ever move out, you leave behind that subsidized housing, and then you would have to reapply again, and then you would go from there. So it's not like a housing choice voucher. You cannot port it or anything like that. You can eventually convert it over to a housing choice voucher, but that is what it is. All right, so we're going to move on to family unification vouchers. Now, that's a different process where you have entire families that are trying to unify. It may be through divorce or maybe getting back together, but there's a lot of details that go specific to that. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to refer you over to a video on that because it's a little bit too heavy to get into that one right now. Now, the home ownership vouchers, I'm only going to speak briefly. Now, that was something that was rolled out in 2000 and pretty much ended in 2000. That allowed you in specific areas of the country with specific housing authorities to convert your housing choice voucher. So rather than you being a renter, you're actually paying into the actual mortgage if you can complete it over that period of time. Now, that does still exist in rare examples in certain places. Now, they revisited through legislation back in 2014, again in 2016. And as far as I know, it's not nationwide. So a lot of you guys are still under the impression you can convert your housing choice voucher into a home ownership voucher. That really comes down to whether or not that specific city you're in, and that housing authority still has that program available. And so I'm not going to go too deep. You really have to have a licensed real estate agent to really help you with that in lieu of what I do. Now, we have what we call foster youth to independence, or FYI. Those of you guys that are aging out of foster care system, this is an ideal program for you. it does exactly as it sounds. A lot of you guys are in the foster care and you're leaving, you have nowhere to go. And since your foster parents are really not going to probably buy you a car or really help you get into your first apartment, then you can utilize the FYI system to assist you, to give you a boost. It means that the state of the city is going to take financial responsibility to help you in your early life, maybe as you transition to your first job or going to college. So I would encourage you to look into the Foster Youth to Independence, or FYI program, to help you out if you are in the ages of 17 to 24. Then there are some more unique ones. These type of vouchers. These are more of what my landlords are more interested in on occasion. These are witness relocation programs, and so they're witness relocation vouchers. Now that's most people that dealt with cases, criminal cases or civil cases through the federal government, through the city, through the state, and also at the county level. And also for those of you that suffer from domestic issues. I cannot say the whole thing because YouTube does not like me to say that word. Let's just say that it's a complicated issue where one person's abused by another, okay? Then we're going to move on to rapid rehousing. So many of you have heard many of my videos about continuum of care, which is coordinated entry or housing first, as it was rolled out on a federal level. And they essentially offer two different types of housing vouchers. Now, I want you to understand that the continuum of care and coordinated entry has nothing to do with the housing authority. It has to do with nonprofits or possibly even city organizations. They get funding from the federal government. So you have the housing authority here and you have nonprofits here. They get different, separate funding, and that funding for each is then turned into a voucher. So continuum of care, coordinated entry offers rapid rehousing, which is RRH, or PSH, which is permanent supportive housing. So let me go into a little bit of what each one is. They're both vouchers, but they do very different things. And again, this is not connected in any way to the housing authority, okay? So rapid rehousing is a program that can run as much as 2 years. And it's a disintegrating payment. So when they first put you in the apartment for January, and say your rent is $1,000, they pay $1,000. And they may continue to pay that $1,000 for January, February, and March. And then they say, oh, when April hits, we're going to lower the payment to $900, and you need to start adjusting with your job to pay your own rent. So over time of that 2 years, the payments continue to disintegrate. So what ends up happening is now your January, February, March, then in April $900, and then it may go down to 8, 7, 6, and it'll continue to go till it completely evaporates. And at that point, over that 2 year period, you should be stable with your job or whatever it is you're doing. For those of you that suffer from severe mental or physical disabilities that are qualifying issues, and I've made plenty of videos about how to qualify in that area. You don't just have to have a Social Security disability check or case. HUD is a different federal agency than HUD's a different federal agency than the Social Security Administration. So HUD does not have quite as high standards as the Social Security Administration. So you could prove a disability much easier with HUD housing than you could if you were trying to go to the Social Security Administration to get a check, okay? So with that being said, PSH pays 100% of your rent and utility till you die, you break the law, break the lease, or abandon the unit. Now, and that does sound like a pretty good deal, right? Well, not every landlord that participates has a great building. So you have to, there's a trade-off. You may not get the best landlord, but then again, you're not paying rent. This is a mythical unicorn as well. It's difficult to get. However, most of my clients that I deal with have managed to get that. After 18 years of doing this, 11,000 manuals later, and reading over 1 million pages of content, the reality of it is, it takes so much time to figure out these systems, system operations, and data manuals, that the only way to arrive at how to actually unrig a rig system is to simply learn, and that's what I've done over these years. But going back, PSH does pay 100% rent. Then we're talking about HUD VASH. For you guys that have served in the United States military, the Coast Guard, if you've also served in the National Guard, those are the applicable issues there. You get anywhere from 80 to 130% of rent, which means if it's 1,000 rent, they may pay the landlord over 10 or 20%. And then the HUD VASH, because you're a veteran, you're considered priority, and you're also priority to most landlords. So that's a fairly good voucher to have. Now, they can also make you an offer to give you a voucher through the continuum of care coordinated entry. So they may not give you a housing choice voucher with the housing authority, but they can go over to the nonprofits and give you RRH or PSH. So it can go either way. Now, the ones you guys are really going to enjoy are special purpose vouchers. A lot of you guys are under the impression that when a waiting list is closed, the housing authority says, oh, we're not doing business. We've been closed for 15 years. We're not going to deal with anybody. That's not reality. Under most federal law, they do keep in reserve 15% of their funding for special cases or special purposes or people with special preferences. In other words, maybe there was a federal court case in John Gotti. Let's just say John Gotti. He gets convicted, obviously, but so they need to put him in a federal witness protection. So the housing authority sometimes have to pick up those clients. And so when they do that through the state, the feds, and so on, the housing authority's got to have the additional funding there on a closed waiting list, and they have to have free vouchers. So there are special circumstances in which they could, even on a closed waiting list, even when it's been closed decades, they keep 15% of those vouchers in reserve for special people. And I can always tell you guys, a lot of you are under the impression you can get emergency Section 8 housing. Well, look, you got to have special reasons. If you don't know what those things are, then my suggestion is to call me. I have figured out about 89% of the reasons why they might issue one of those. And then, of course, there are backdoor programs. If you have a connection with the county or the city for your mental health or physical health, you can get a direct referral from county backdooring you into the housing authority, where they're compelled by the city to issue a voucher, regardless of whether or not that list is open or closed, whether or not that list is a wait or no wait. There's lots of different ways you can compel a housing authority to give you one of those vouchers that they secretly kind of keep. And I can actually show you the language inside their own policies and procedures that shows how they do hide those vouchers, even on a closed waiting list. All right, guys, so for you seniors, I always like to help you guys the most. You guys have the toughest time. So we're going to talk about Section 202, and this is specifically for seniors with or without disabilities. And that's also in lieu of using, I'll tell you what, it always seems to slip my mind, subsidized housing. So seniors have a lot of options. With 202, you also get wraparound services, supportive services, a lot of additional services just besides the voucher you can get. So you can pick up 202 at the housing authority, or you could go and independently do subsidized housing. There's about 7 other options that I won't go into because it's quite expansive. But if you're a senior, you're struggling with housing, my suggestion is call me. I've got pretty much all the information that was ever written on the subject, and I'm pretty sure that I know how to get you through that system very easy. About 30% of my clients are seniors. So let's move on to Section 811, the notorious Section 811. Out of all the things you guys know about Section 8, or think you know, one of the most common ones that's brought up to me out of all the subsections is Section 811. You guys never talk about Section 202, Section 515, Section 504, and even Section 9, Section 10. And these are all subsections of either tax law or also federal law that's written for HUD, that's specifically exempt to follow. There are lots of subsections, but moving back to 811. 811 is going to be for people with disabilities. Section 811 tends to pay out a little bit more and requires you to pay a little bit less. It also makes it applicable to ADA laws, which means if you need units that, if you are suffering from a disability and so on, whether you're walking in a wheelchair and you're blind, or you may be deaf, or you have problems in those areas, Section 811 is a very good voucher to have because it does pay a little bit higher than your average housing choice voucher. So again, that does get in rather great detail, so I'm just going to keep it simple on that. Now we're going to talk about Section 504 for you students, you college students. Look, I'm not making prior videos saying, look, if you're under 24, if you're 23 to 17, it's difficult. It is. It truly is. But, however, they do offer 504 for students that have disabilities. So if you're in school or college and you have a disability, the story changes. And we can definitely work with you on the FYI or 504 program as a student with a disability. And then again, if you don't know what a disability is or what one might be to qualify, then you'd want to talk to me about that. Now, I'm going to throw in a quick joke for you guys. Now, there is what I call Section 9, okay? It does really exist. But, there is a type of program that offers all free meals, all hot meals, and they also offer free housing. You can get the free housing from anywhere from 1 day up to 50, 60, even 100 years if you like. They won't even evict you. It's called the federal prison. Okay, so it's a running joke between me and a lot of my clients. If you would like Section 9, not Section 8, but Section 9, the federal penitentiary does take clients. There's no lease, and they'll keep you without evicting you for as long as you wish. So I would not advise calling me about Section 9 because I really don't want to see any of you housed in the federal penitentiary. So anyways, FEMA, Red Cross, and Shelter Plus. Look, a lot of you guys, whether you're low income or high income, if you run into things like the virus that we have, which is COVID-19, whether you've been in flash floods, you've been in forest fires, your house is burned down, and you're dealing with FEMA and Red Cross, they offer special vouchers. A lot of you guys don't know how to communicate that. Look, it is not the responsibility of the housing authority. It's not the responsibility of HUD, Red Cross, or any of them to apprise you of all the wonderful things. They're not ever going to pull out a menu and say, please choose from the 138 different types of vouchers. You have to know they exist. Once you know they exist, then you have to press them in order to get that stuff. Same thing with FEMA and Red Cross. They're not going to lay out a menu. Please select every free option. Go ahead and fill your basket with all the great options we give. They're not going to do that. They're going to ask you questions, and they're going to attempt to give you the least amount possible. If you don't know how to get these things, then you need to talk to somebody that knows how to do it, okay? So FEMA and Red Cross do offer vouchers. They also can backdoor you. With a simple phone call, they can often speak to the county and housing authorities and make things happen very quickly. Hey guys, now, another one I've been hearing a lot about is the Shelter Plus. Look, if you live in San Francisco, LA, New York, the Bronx, Queens, and all that craziness, I love those cities, but let me tell you something. That Shelter Plus just means that you have disabilities and you're convalescent, which means you're recovering from disabilities or you currently have them. They're very severe, and they're going to give you a rubber mat on the floor, okay? Anytime you hear Shelter Plus, when you deal with the housing authority or you deal with a counselor, just go ahead and hang up the fucking phone because that is a joke, okay? If the resolution is to put you on a rubber mat, okay, with a disability, then you need to just hang up the phone and quit dealing with that counselor. It means they're an idiot. And trust me, let me explain something to housing authority about housing authority employees, okay? I'm not going to say all of them. Look, for about $90, they can get the special title. Just like when you go in and you play a game, you get a special little title for winning a prize. Being a housing specialist is a booby prize, okay? $90, you can be a rodeo clown and pretend that you know lots of shit. Do you know how many nonprofits have social workers and counselors that hire me and dump their entire caseload on me? Because the limit of their ability, so they're great counselors. They can make you feel better. But when it comes to getting you housing, the limit of their ability is to sit there with an ink pen and a piece of paper and write on there, okay, what's your name? That is not a skill to get anybody housing. That's why the shit takes so damn long. If you want somebody that knows how to do more than just scribble your name on an application and they can help you get through the system, you know where I'm located. I would not be one of the leading authorities in the country with this if I didn't know. So you guys are putting too much of your trust into social workers, counselors, and especially those crazy people that are at shelters. Just because they have a title of counselor at a homeless shelter, let me tell you something. Those guys, they barely know what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like I said, you know how many times I've had homeless shelters, nonprofits contact me, dump 30 and 40 cases on me, because a lot of those caseworkers, it's the first day. They just got their GED out the bubblegum machine, and you're letting them completely screw up your life, and you don't even know when you're next going to speak to them to help you with housing. So I'm just telling you, if you want to get counseling to feel better, that's fine with a counselor. If you want to get housing, go to a specialist. And I mean somebody like me. I've taken every one of those tests, every one of those manuals. There's over 76 certifications. Look, these housing specialists, they're not what you think they are, okay? These wonderful titles they give, they're not what you think. 90% of the people that work in the housing authority have just started working there. They quit and start as many times you can imagine. Most of them only have a limited ability to answer phones. That's it. Most of them have never even been to college. And you're depending on trusting them and for them to apprise you of your rights to help you get the best voucher. Well, no, it's not going to happen that way. So I'm not trying to disappoint. I just want you to understand reality. So now that we've talked about a good 32 different types of housing, let me tell you a few more things that you should know. There are lots of options. There's lots of ways. And this is, with housing Section 8 and doing applications, filling an application is just an application. Let me tell you something about those applications. Built into that, when they ask you your name and other questions, there's about 6 or 7 questions that are built in to almost every housing authority's application. And you look at them, and the questions are put in there in a specific way to shame you. Like they'll ask in there, Now, keep in mind the question that they're going to be asking to mentally work in your head to get you to not answer correctly, or the ones that will absolutely make you fly up the waiting list. So they'll ask whether or not you're delusional and other things, whether you have mental problems, are you crazy? And so the natural reaction for as a human is to not want to admit those things. And every time they get you to not answer correctly on one of those questions, you lose a shitload of points, essentially, and you go down the list. And there's a lot of questions that are cleverly built in there, and they word them in such a way to discourage you from either answering honestly or answering at all. And so you end up really just doing a terrible application. I had one lady, we were discussing it, she answered everything wrong and then everything about her personally right. And so she would have been like every other person on that 10,000 person waiting list. And so she'll just wait a lifetime because she literally answered, based on her humility, answered every question wrong, you know? So I would encourage you to rethink how you do your application. So open the questions here. Angie Rivas would like to get one with your system. Well, Angie, if you'd like my website, you can set up very easy. I made that website extremely easy. Just go to the booking part. You can book me. My prices pretty much stay the same. I think it's $45 for 30 minutes. That means a half hour we talk. I try to work 3 people with problems. I've worked 13,000 people through housing. So if I was failing to do my job or do it very well, nobody would have ever booked me. My channel would be riddled with angry people and nasty comments. In an average year, I'll probably get 3 bad comments. So, Wynette Landrew, you are so right. I try to be Miss Landrew. You know, Wynette was one of my clients, and I really immensely enjoyed talking with her. That's the one thing that I get is I get a lot of midlife and older folks that come to get help. You know, they're tired of reading the garbage on Google. Google's just filled with people that just keep copying each other. It's just one bullshit article after another that leads to nowhere. I was reading today, I Googled how to get low-income housing fast, that specific term. And the article was horrific. It was like a rodeo, a party clown from a child's party had written that article. And you guys are going and reading these articles on Google, and you're thinking you're getting good advice. Look, they're all just copying. Most of them have no idea. Then they go and watch my videos and make an article, which is even more amusing. So yeah, you got to watch yourself, especially there. And a lot of the people that give tips and tricks on YouTube. Look, I've been doing it 18 years. They've been doing it 5 minutes because they need you to click an ad, okay? That'll help them buy some lipstick or maybe a case of beer for their little YouTube channel. I take this, let me tell you something, responsibility of dealing with mothers with infants that are living under a bridge, that I have seniors that are living in shelters that are literally dying in there because they can't get housing. I take my responsibility very seriously. So, you have a choice. You can watch somebody that doesn't care about what happens to you. Their only interest is just talking about a few nonsense things. Their little head bobs and just talking about pure bullshit for 5 minutes, a crap channel basically, talking about Section 8. You're welcome to those kind of people, but I got to tell you, your housing is one of the most important things. I do care about what happens to my clients, and I see it through. That's a big factor. So can you help me get into 55 plus senior housing? Well, Ms. Landry, what I do there is we do the search for that. We see what properties are available. Yes, I do help with that, obviously, and I've worked with a lot of clients to do that. It's not always guaranteed. The pandemic has made my job 2 to 3 times harder. So we have a massive wave of people that are now freshly homeless and other people that are searching, and I do my best. Look, guys, a lot of you guys pay me, for 30 minutes, right? I get up at 4 in the morning, and I'm still working on your case, It's more like you're paying me to work for an hour or 2 for you. I've got a young lady in New York right now. She must be 23 years old. I'm still working on that lady's case. She's only paid me once. It matters to me. I don't just take people's money and run off and say, well, fuck it. She got her advice. Let me turn off my telephone. No, I continue to work for people because I'm not going to leave people just dead and struggling on the street. That's just ridiculous. So that's not the kind of service I do. So I'm glad that we talked a little bit about how to get the application. I think most of you knew how to apply for Section 8. I mean, obviously you're calling the housing authority, but look, there's a whole world of options open to you. I just hate to see you guys struggle with this stuff. Ms. Rivas, thank you. Jungle Beats, man, tell you what, man, Jungle Beats, it's been a while since I've seen you. I've now got a website up, that helps. A lot of my seniors in the early days were skeptical. No website, no business. So I put that up on the good advice of most of my seniors, telling me, hey, man, if you don't if you don't publish yourself on the internet, we're not going to do too much business with you. So I did finally get that up, and we're still working on that website and getting it better by every day. Oh, by the way, guys, I just signed a new landlord. So as most of you know, I've got a lot of landlords in California, and we're signing up a new landlord, I think San Diego, and that's going to be an additional 200 units out there. And most of you that are on vouchers that live around that area or Riverside or near LA, you want to talk to me because you know that I'm a fair and reasonable guy. So I will not be the property manager, but I do make the ultimate decisions on who is going to be in that building, who's not. And you all know how I feel about prostitutes, drug dealers, and bad activity. My properties will run as good as any property that you'd go out there and pay $5,000 for. Okay, so if you're out there in California and you're struggling with housing, when we get this building purchased and we get it finished, you should come to me. I'll handle your application personally. I'll make sure. One thing I do is if I know that you're a good person, you will get in my building on principle. Okay, so there won't be none of this 25 years waiting stuff and the other games that the landlords play. And I keep those properties clean. I keep it meticulous. People are going to treat you with respect. I don't run a slum like the housing authorities do. I don't deal with landlords that are slumlords either. If I find out a landlord's slumlord, I'll cut him and his property loose. We're done. I expect people to be treated fair and equitably in any property that I deal with, and that's the only kind of property. And we try to buy them outside of low income and gang areas, stuff like that. That way, people can leave. They can leave that old place they left and live comfortably and naturally, and not have to feel like they're under the threat of other things. Okay, so that's another thing nice about a product. We try to remove it from the bad areas, so you can move on. It's okay to be low income, but still be able to live a normal life. And that's what I want mostly with my clients and also for my landlords, is we have a safe place for everybody to live. So rolling this back, guys, looking back at the questions here. Yes, Ms. Landry, we'll talk next week if that's what you want. Jungle Beats, up and up. Yep. You know, I've been working very hard to get out there and get the word out. One of the things I've been trying to do right now is, now that I've got 160 videos on YouTube, you know, I've been able to beat down all the ridiculous videos, you know, get them lowered down, because I hate seeing people get bad advice. Now I'm working around the clock with several full stack web developers. And what we're doing is we're building out blog pages and we're pushing down all the garbage information on YouTube. So I'm going to systematically push down all the trash that I see on YouTube. I'm going after every keyword, and I'm going to build out articles until you get these fakes and frauds, until I push their stuff to the second page where they're no longer relevant. So it's taken me time to do that, but I've employed 2 or 3 companies to help me push it down, to get rid of these garbage advice, garbage articles, and garbage answers. Google's lit up with just nutcases out there. Their only interest is making money off of ads. They don't really want to help any of y'all with Section 8 housing. Their interest is not to help you with vouchers. It's just to give you any old, respin an old article and hope you fall for the game. So I make it my personal mission to get rid of those guys on Google whenever I can. Open the questions. Anybody got any problems? Anything y'all need? Anything related to the housing or the voucher? Portability, you've got discrimination from the landlord, discrimination from the housing authority. You're trying to move from one city to another. Okay, you know, I deal with all types of issues. If you're a landlord, I'm building out a pretty big one. One of the landlords I've got, we just finished up a 200 unit, and we're doing another 50 buildings at 200 units. So that is 10,000 units for state of California, state of Texas, and the state of Florida. And I know a lot of you seniors are going to be excited about that, because we will be heading down to Florida, and we're going to be buying up a lot. And that's going to be Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and so there's going to be a lot of great places. And the nice part is, if you get in touch with me, we can port you from where you are down there. I told you guys, you don't have to live in a bad neighborhood. I'm more than happy to port you guys down to Honolulu, Puerto Rico. If you want to live on a tropical island, we'll put you out there on the beach of, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, whatever it is you want to do. A lot of you guys believe just because you're low income that you got to suffer through living in a broom closet. You're renting a $2,000 broom closet in New York. I think I tell you, New Yorkers, New Jersey folks, look, let me send you down to Florida. Why not go put your feet out in the sand? You guys are putting yourself to too much, but nothing, you know. You can be poor anywhere. It doesn't have to be in a shitty neighborhood. Seriously, I see a lot of you guys your life is just tore up from having to hold on to live in that same old crappy city, man. Let me send you somewhere new. For you young folks out there, look, there's a lot of hope. The system has changed since the 80s. You don't have to go, just because you got kids doesn't mean you got to live in some terrible project-based housing. If you're in, look, listen, folks, if you're in project-based housing, man, give me a call. I will get you the hell out of that. We will, within 45 days, convert that over to housing choice voucher, and we'll either A, get you to a different property, or B, I will mail you and your children down to a different state and city where people will treat you with some damn respect. You don't have to sit out there and listen to gunshots and then watch Mary over at Unit B3 turn tricks. You don't have to live that way, okay? If you've got problems with these people, you let me know. That's what I do. We'll take it up with the Department of Housing, and then we'll start making sure that Ms. Budge over there runs that Department of Housing, that discrimination suits start getting filed, okay? I deal with a lot of attorneys. Attorneys are smart. They're wizards of the law. And a lot of them come to me because what I do is very niche or niche, which means an attorney is an excellent option, but they often turn to me because they don't feel like spending the next 18 years learning what I know. So I work in conjunction with a lot of attorneys. I have property, real estate lawyers, corporate lawyers, marriage lawyers, family service lawyers, estate lawyers, especially that are dealing with the elderly that no longer know what's going on. They've lost the dementia. So I work with a lot of attorneys, and they hire me to help fill in the gap of what they don't know. So what I do is actually very important for you guys. So it looks like we got a few more questions. I live in New York projects. I was on Section 8 waiting list. When I was called for the project, I was told to pick up, stay on Section 8 list and choose the projects. Jungle Beats, it looks like we got to get you ported out of there, man. There's better, you can still live in New York and you can get to a different place. I hate to see you folks out in projects. You deserve better, okay? Your income should never indicate whether you should be treated good or badly. In principle, I have always cared. If I'm willing to spend $1,500 saving a cat's life, imagine how much more I would care about you guys out there in the project, suffering in insufferable apartments, dealing with landlords that should be extinguished, should be put out of business. That's what I do. I go after bad people, and I make them pay, in lieu of attorneys. And it's important you guys understand I'm not an attorney. So Pamela Hartwell, I'm disabled and 60. Well, when you reach, when you're over 55 plus with a disability, you have a decent case, which we need to stack a few more things on top of that, Pamela, to make that case even better. There's lots of ways. HUD and the Housing Authority, it's a game. And what I do is I play the game better than the people that invented it, okay? I keep track of it. HUD employees come and go. So do Housing Authorities employees. They come and go every year, every 5 years. I don't come and go. I've been here for 18 years, so I know the game. I'm not just good at messing with one housing authority. I can mess with all of them. I've got all their operational manuals. I know exactly where they get those. I know the people they subcontract all that stuff from. You're talking about over 11,000 manuals. So if you know the questions, you know the answers, you know how they operate, you know the rules in which they, policies and procedures in which they have to operate, it leaves little to the imagination that are easily defeated, especially by somebody like me. If you're clever, you know what you're doing, then it's easy to deal with it. So I don't take that information as me saying that it's easy to get housing. It's certainly not. But the difference would be you can crawl to get housing, or I can walk you to it. There's a big difference when I'm driving for you. When I'm driving that car, I'm going to get you where you need to go. If you're going to do it yourself, trust me, you're crawling. A lot of you guys, man, you really have no idea. You fill out an application one time and you forget about it. I'm going to tell you, that's not near enough effort. You've done 1% of what you could have done to improve your case. So take a look at some of these questions over here. Now, I feel like some of you are being shy. We have sometimes up to 10 people watching, and you guys aren't asking a lot of questions. It's just my normal supporters. Please feel free. Don't be shy. Nobody's going to say anything bad to you. If you got questions about anything related to HUD, the Housing Authority, vouchers, any of that, I'm here to answer those questions for you. If you don't want to ask private questions, you go on to consultant.com. Look, I'm not forcing y'all to check out and purchase my service. You can email me just as simple. Simply do it that way. Please don't write me a whole novel. Some of you guys will write me 10,000 words. Remember, I get 400 emails a day. So when you write me an entire novel, that's a little bit hard on me to do, you know. So I'm out here taking my Saturday off and I'm giving it to you guys, mainly because I'm bored stupid. Normally I work 7 days a week on y'all's cases. So, Ms. Landry, I totally appreciate you, and I thank you for being there for you. Let me tell you something. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy people. I enjoy nothing. Nothing is a greater privilege and honor than for me to take a man that's on the street with nothing. Okay, not even a pair of shoes, to take him from that. Okay, get him through housing, get him stabilized, and get him moving on. There's no greater responsibility as a human being than to bring somebody up. It's not about making $45. Who cares about $45? The goal, the goal and the mission behind it is, as humans, we have to help each other. We don't start helping each other and we're only going to be centered on ourselves, then this is going to go nowhere. If I want to be like every other YouTube person, I can sit here and make programs and make you purchase silly little videos and bullshit like that, follow my program and do this and do that. It's all nonsense. If you want to help a man, then you get on the phone line and you talk to them. You give them something where they can go out there and help them get back in housing. That's what I do, is get people off the damn street, out of the shelter. And for those of you that are struggling, they haven't been able to pay your rent in a year. So you're sitting there, you're pulling your hair up. You don't know if you're going to be evicted, put out on the street. So that's what I do, is I'm jumping in there to help you stop that situation before it blows up on you. There's no reason to watch your life disintegrate. There are people out here that can help you with that. So Ms. Landry says, I'm 58. I'm on SSI. Section 8 porthole reads open and active, but I don't know what to do from there. Well, Ms. Landry, if you ever get an opportunity, you want to speak to me about that, I'd be glad to help you as best I can with that. Same thing with you, Pamela, Ms. Hartwell. Be happy to help you with your case or talk to you about it. Let me tell you something, man. I've talking to me for 30 minutes, so I can sit here and talk like the wind. That's part of me being a southerner, but I tell you what, we can solve a lot of problems in 30 minutes. Definitely give you the direction, and a lot of people have been able to get through COC housing. Look, I don't just give you questions and answers. One of the things I do is I'll actually, one thing I'm not scared to do. If you got a housing alert, I'll give you the entire operational manual. I mean, this is the stuff that train their people with. How much more powerful can you get it? If you know what their job is, specifically, know their policies and procedures and how they must behave as an employee, how much better do you think I am at my job? If I know specifically, line by line, their data and algorithm code for the HMIS system that ranks you guys, if I know specifically what factors are making you rank and not wait, then how much better could I be at my job? So when I tell you that when I'm absolutely the best in the nation and stuff, there is nobody that competes with me, period. And you know what? I'll hold up to that. If anybody out there can think of one person, can find somebody on Google or Yahoo that's Google or YouTube that's better at doing what I do, then please point them out. Please tell them to contact me. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I have not seen it. So it's not a bragging thing. I just want you to remain confident in the things that I know and what I do. Also, if you want to go to my YouTube channel, you go to the community page, you will see nothing but housing authority letters with real people's name. Call down there. It's Simone Damon's. It's just she'd get a housing choice voucher. Go look at that community page. I don't just talk to talk and walk to walk. You actually see the real people, the real vouchers with real addresses. Go check my references. Also, I posted the links. Why would a landlord turn over a $7 to $10 million building with 200 units if I didn't know what the hell I was doing? Why would they do that 200 times? Why would I be consulting on properties in the hundreds of millions if I didn't know how to actually be the best Section 8 consultant in the market? So my reputation is, and like I said, I don't have anything to prove. It's whether or not you're suspicious. Please go investigate. I encourage you, call down there at the Rio Murado Hotel property and talk with them. Talk with the owners. Now, either I am the district manager or not. You're welcome to call any of my landlords, and they'll tell you about my reputation and just how sharply I do my job, not only for landlords, but also my clients. So let's take a look at a few more questions. Michael Mike, are your music's ready? So Michael Mike is a gentleman I met, and he's also a great client. He does excellent professional music, and he's going to be providing some of the content for my channel. The wonderful part about having a lot of my clients, they may not offer a lot, but they do often offer me their professional services. And I'm quite proud of that, a lot of the clients that I've helped with their housing also in return help me with things, and everything from writing content to my website and even music. So I'd like to give Michael a thank you for that. So let's see, Ms. Landrew, she says that did Section 8 change their name? What are they calling it now? So as a technicality, Section 8 as the word is just a reference to what you might be receiving. So there's HUD, which is going to be the Department of U.S. Housing, and then they issue funding down to the Housing Authority. And then they used to call it receiving a Section 8 voucher, but now you're receiving a housing choice voucher. I think the stigma attached to the word Section 8 is terrible. And that's why that's why I use it in my name, because that's what everybody calls it. It seems like nobody wants to call it a housing choice voucher. They call the housing authority HUD. HUD has nothing to do with the housing authority. HUD is the federal government issuing money to the housing authority. A lot of you guys, I'm going to go apply down to the HUD. No, you're not. You're going to apply to the housing authority. HUD's not in every city and county. The housing authority is. So, that's like a big lesson kind of teaching y'all the differences between these names. We all convoluted all these names. Like subsidized housing, you guys call it 10 or 20 different things. You call subsidized housing, y'all call it affordable housing, you call it low-income housing, you call it, there's about 10 different names you'll call it, but the reality is that's because you're learning from so much misinformation on YouTube and Google that you no longer even really know what it is anymore. You've given a lot of designations. So I would caution you with that to be careful, that you know what you're applying for. A lot of you think that there's only one type of voucher. In the earlier video, guys, if you want to rewind, you'll see that I named over 30 types of housing vouchers under 30 different subsections. And to be frank with you, there's 138 types of vouchers and funding out there I've already identified. And we're talking about deep dive. Some of them that you guys have never even heard of. My landlords get excited because some of those vouchers pay a tremendous amount of money, and some of them do very special things for you guys. So yes, Section 8 or the Housing Authority deals with conventional housing. That's the point, I think, of Housing Authority. We're trying to move away from project-based housing, which is owned by the Housing Authority, and give people the option to go out and live in normal properties, to go talk to normal landlords. And let me tell you something, the view of Section 8 and housing vouchers has really changed from the pandemic. Why? Because landlords only wanted people with a job. And then now they've gone a year without most of the country wanting to pay rent. So I've had a 500% increase in landlords that a year ago would have said, I don't want anybody with a Section 8 voucher. I'm too good for Section 8 tenants. Now they're begging me for those clients. Why? Because the landlords that accepted Section 8 housing choice vouchers are the only landlords that managed to go through the pandemic and actually get all their rent. The rest of the landlords that would have spoken the devil about having Section 8 vouchers and tenants are now the ones regretting it and having to shut their mouth about it. Why? Because those are the landlords that have not seen a rental payment in almost a year. So now I've got them begging me. I've got landlords that are, so you guys out there are getting these housing choice vouchers. It's a very prized thing. Landlords want you now because it's the only guarantee they have, because they know the U.S. government will always pay their bill and pay for that voucher, where they cannot no longer trust people keeping their job during a pandemic. Philip Aurora, I hope, well, I'm just going to say Philip because I can't see your last name very well. So I am lost when it comes to this stuff. I'm going to set up a consult. Look, Philip, I'd love to talk with you. You can also ask me questions on the booking page if you want to email me. I try to answer as many questions as I can, as long as it's not too time consuming. But yeah, if you want me to help you sort it out, teach you what's going on, it's a lot easier to do it that way. So I'm going to tell you guys, you're welcome to watch 160 videos if you want. The quicker way to deal with problems when they're pressing you for life is just book the call. Look, guys, a lot of you spend more at Starbucks, okay, than you're willing to spend to actually hire a consultant that can get you housing. You got to think about that seriously. You're willing to spend more at McDonald's in a week than you would give me a chance to fix your housing problems. You would spend more for a pack of cigarettes and a case of beer than you would actually spend on me to secure your housing. That says a lot about not having the right priorities. Look, spending $45 is probably the best damn decision you're going to make. I'm dealing with the most valuable things that you can potentially get that would decrease your costs. It would save you $20,000 a year, but I would have to sit there and explain and sell this point to you guys that $45 is nothing, is a drop in the bucket compared to you fixing your life and going on to somewhere nice. So anyways, I'm not going to push the issue about consulting fees and all that, but you've got to prioritize your money and use it for valuable things, not just going down and buying a bunch of garbage at McDonald's Starbucks and beer and other crazy shit people buy. You've got to go and invest in your home and in your life, and the best way to do that is with a consultant. I'm not look. If there was no need for me, then I wouldn't exist. Okay, and there's a reason why I exist. So that is what it is. So yeah, I look forward to it. I hope some of you do come to me as a client. Let me prove my case. Well, let's get you the housing. So. Well, guys, my voice is starting to wane. Talking for about an hour is a tough thing. I was hoping more of you would engage with me a little bit, but, I see some of you guys are shy, and most of my normal clients are not. So, again, if you have any questions, now is your last chance to ask about any kind of problems you're having. If not, save the video. I know it's a long video. You can watch it 15 minutes at a time until you get through it. If you got questions, come up visit me on section8.com. Like I said, you don't have to purchase my service in order to ask me questions. I'm here to help folks. I'm not here to sit here and turn this into a money game. I make my money by dealing with landlords and setting them up. I'm not out here to make home money off homeless people or people that are broke. Okay. However, my time is valuable and I can't spend it for free 18 hours a day without charging something. So I think that my fee is very reasonable. Also, if you want to get a look at some of the housing choice vouchers and I've helped people get, or even see the cats, most people know I'm a cat person and I post my cats. Go to my community page on my YouTube channel. You'll see it. You'll see hundreds of people that receive vouchers and different things. And so that'll help you a little bit. So, well, I'm going to take a look, see if we have any new comments. Please add a noon time slot for tomorrow. Mr. Romero, let's see. Pacific Standard Time. I'll tell you what, BB Romero, send me an email, see what I can do. I don't really like adding specific times because the software is difficult to deal with, but I could probably make an exception and we can just do the console in a separate way, okay? And then is Bill Orlando says, are some counties better than others? Absolutely, guys. Look, let me give you a great example. Here's an extreme example. If you're out in Los Angeles, okay, Orange County, terrible. If I were to get you to simply get an address, just simply consider counties that are just one county over. You go from a list that is 30,000 down to 2,000, okay? So yes, that's why you want to consult, because what I can do, I can identify all the counties surrounding where you're living, and I can find the weakest one. What I mean by the weakest housing authority, I can find one with the shortest list. Then we figure out all the correct answers, which are looking here. Once we combine those two efforts, then guess what you get? You get a voucher much quicker than the average bearer. That's how that game works. You've got to approach this in a clever way. And like I said, I've had about 20 years of practice. I know what I'm looking for in different counties and different housing authorities. And once I smell and I see and I seek out weaknesses in different housing authorities, trust me, I will send you packing down there. Look, one lady I was able to identify a very shady little housing authority, didn't like to advertise it. Well, and the reason, because they didn't advertise, turns out their waiting list was only 6 people. Well, I lift them up real good. So I send clients to them all the time. So that's what I do. I identify anomalies with counties and housing authorities. And once I figure out they're weak, I go after them. And I go after them. Boy, you wouldn't believe how bad I go after them. And what I mean by that is I send people pack the doors. I'm looking for unique housing authorities that barely have a list. And then I get you guys to move there. Simple as that. You do that 12-month lease, and we'll port you anywhere you want to go. So, yeah. There's all kinds of, let me tell you, there's lots of tricks in my bag. Most people have watched me do that through my videos. I've got some pretty unique talents for dealing with housing authorities and getting people vouchers. It's not a clever game. I'm not breaking any law. It's just when I have both the operations manual, data manuals, I have all their information, and I know how they operate. I know how their algorithms work with the waiting lists and their lotteries, and all the reasons in which they grant these vouchers, and it's pretty easy for me to disseminate how we can work that system a little bit better. As I said from the beginning of this video, I don't just play the game. I play the game better than the people that made it. And if you can't play the game that way, then you're not a consultant. So that's what distinguishes me from every other person on YouTube and Google. When I play the game, I play it very well. And, the success is seen in my channel. Let me tell you another thing. You can just delete comments. That's why you have no negative comments. No, it's because I do a good job. One thing I can't delete is the fact that 93% of all videos are 100% liked. Okay, I can't fake good results. So my reputation, as I said, it stands alone. What I do is very powerful. I'm not out here purchasing or sneaking around or doing political vouchers. I'm simply playing the game better than the people that invented it. So, look, guys, I've really enjoyed having you all here. I think we'll do another video maybe Monday or Tuesday, and I'm going to take on some more specific questions from you guys. But for now, I've really enjoyed talking with the 15 people that came. And like I said, I'm here if you need me. Anything that you need at all in relation to Section 8, I'm definitely your guy. And if you are in California, Texas, Florida, New Jersey, Chicago, and some parts of New York, I have several landlords. I've got over 200 landlords, and sometimes I might even actually be the consulting landlord for the property. So if you're struggling to find housing in those states, there's a good chance that I already consult on properties you might like to live, and those landlords would be thrilled. A lot of them under contract that I deal with, these landlords under contract, know that if I have clients from YouTube, I will send you over there. I only deal with nice properties. I don't deal with slumlords, shitty maintenance companies, and properties that are run with crackheads. I don't do that. I don't take this kind of landlord. So you could get into a much better property through some of the people, landlords I deal with. I only deal with ethical people that are going to treat you with respect. If you want trash, go down to the housing authority. Go get you one of those project-based housing places that are run by the housing authority. If you want to see what a slum is, let the housing authority figure it out for you. I guarantee you, by the time the housing authority gets done with you and their version of the projects, you're going to regret that. So if you don't want to go down that road, man, hire me. Let me tell you something. We'll send you the best place they've got. I'll damn well try. I'll go up and smoke trying, okay? Most people know that. I fight pretty hard for my clients. So, all right, guys, y'all have a good day. It's around noon here in Texas, and I'm getting hungry. And like I said, I've been on here for an hour straight, and my voice is starting to give. So it's been a pleasure and an honor. If you're homeless out there, I want you guys to know I do care. Contact me. I do not. I will do everything I can to get you off that street. If you're a senior and you're struggling, and you don't have no money left, you contact me. I do not want to see any old people having to struggle. If people giving the attitude, if they're discriminating against you, you contact you, let me know. There's ways to handle those people. Let me tell you something. There are several times in which I went after housing authority employees, and now they're the ones. Now they're the ones out there in their flip-flops, beating their feet on the sidewalk. They no longer have a job, and they're the ones that need a Section 8 housing now. There are all kinds of remedies to get rid of bad actors. And I don't care if it's a landlord or the work of the housing authority. They're not above reproach. They're not above the law. And I will go after them severely when it comes to those issues. So if people are giving you problems, the best thing you can do is contact me. I cannot handle the legal end of that, but I do in tow of other attorneys can make life a living hell for housing authorities and bad actors. So it's been a pleasure and an honor. Like I said, guys, if you're out there, you're struggling, trying up the street, give me a call. That's the best I can offer you guys. All right, take care. I hope I can find the mouse here. All right.